In October 2022, the IMF reached a deal with Bangladesh to provide a $4.5 billion rescue package of loans to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the latest country in South Asia after Sri Lanka and Pakistan to do so, as higher oil prices are depleting the region's dollar reserves in the wake of Ukraine war. But why suddenly there is so much of economic fluctuation in Bangladesh? Why a country that was doing great just months ago went on to seek IMF support? Well, because Bangladesh has put all of its eggs in one basket. The $400 billion of Bangladeshi economy, which has been among the fastest growing in the world for years, is mostly supported by a garment industries that supplies retailers in Europe, the USA, the South America. After China, Bangladesh is the second largest exporter of clothing in the world. Textile exports brought Bangladesh out of the economic misery after its partition from Pakistan. In 1987, Bangladesh's GDP per capita was almost half that of Pakistan, and it was two-thirds that of India in 2007. However, by 2020, Bangladesh had surpassed Pakistan and was gaining up to India, thanks in part to its success in overtaking China and Vietnam to become the world's third largest exporter of textiles. In just 50 years, Bangladesh went from what US diplomats once called a basket case to what the World Bank now calls an inspiring story of growth. Its garment factories helped pull millions out of poverty, especially first-time female workers. Life expectancy in Bangladesh rose by more than 50%. Infant mortality rate declined by almost 90%. Last year, the IMF predicted that Bangladesh GDP would soon be exceeding as that of Denmark's and of Singapore's. In per capita, its GDP is already bigger than its neighboring India's. Just a month ago, Bangladesh was grabbing headlines as an economic miracle. But all of this success is now threatened by a global economic slowdown that's wreaking particular havoc in developing countries like Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the percentage of garment exports in total rose from 75% in 2000 to 86% of total exports in 2019, which is significant, unusual, and also dangerous. Vietnam, a neighbor in Southeast Asia, had a decline in its proportion of global textile exports due to a successful diversification of its export sector, unlike Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Last year, textiles only contributed 15% of the total exports in Vietnam. The Bangladeshi economy is at risk from declining apparel orders because the garment industry contributes more than 10% of the nation's GDP and employs 4.4 million people. And it couldn't be happening to Bangladesh at a worse moment, as officials are turning to productivity eroding power outages to save fuel prices in the midst of a regional energy crisis brought on in part by the conflict in Ukraine. Countries like India have been continuously buying oil from Russia despite pressure from the West. But just like the most of the countries pressed under Western boots, Bangladesh and Pakistan haven't been as fortunate to take advantage of the cheaper Russian oil. As we have discussed earlier in the video, that Bangladesh is the second largest clothing exporter behind China, and the government relies on imported fuel to run its electricity grid. So the country's economic health relies on three things: textile exports, remittances, and fuel prices, and all of which have taken a hit in recent months. Any decline in clothing orders in Europe and the US will lead to a massive crisis in textile export-oriented Bangladeshi economy. The ready-made garment industry is the engine of Bangladeshi economy. It accounts for a whopping 80% of its total exports. When a particular sector contributes so much to the overall export basket, it makes that country vulnerable to economic shock. Bangladesh textile export is the clear case of overdependence on a particular commodity.